pa gyu trashi pa tu che tempe trin le yar ngoda pelge drolor zambe ze parche palden lame shabla solvade Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munish Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajrad Sumati Munishasan Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Omo a Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om a Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Pakyuke Kudan Dagelu Pakyuke Sundan Daginga Pakyuke Tugdan Dageyi Tünyerme Çiktu Çingelu Makyuke Kudan Dagelu Makyuke Sundan Daginga Tugdan Dageyi Tünyerme Çiktu Çingelu Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Svoha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Svoha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Svoha Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dage Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchra Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dage Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchra Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Dage Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchra Sangye Drupar Sho Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Con la pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namo Lai Kedan Ludan Nuchin Ke Rubudada Mikenam Dan Rubokunge Ranam Chitsampa Tamche Ketu Dagi Cheten Tamche Ketu Dagi Cheten. Buongiorno.
Good morning.
Esiste un concetto
It exists a fundamental concept that is that it's not possible to experience some results without creating the causes for it. It's not possible to get an orange without the seed of the orange, without the tree growing, etc., etc. So there are two fundamental concepts in the path that Buddha transmitted us that don't really have a translation in our language, but we can give the meaning. The first is punya and papam in Sanskrit, and in Tibetan, sonam and dikpa.
spesso viene tradotto
Usually we translate them as merits and negativities, but they're both not really correct.
Che cosa vuol dire?
What does it mean?
Ogni azione che
Every action that we do,
ogni interazione
every interaction that it exists, creates,
diventa una condizione per la
becomes a condition for a transformation of other realities with which it interacts. So I interact with you, the words I say, the words you hear, so the sound, my image, the interaction you have with me, the result of my action is a condition for your transformation.
Oltre a questo c'è anche
And beyond this, there are also your thoughts and other conditions. So I cannot make you experience something that for which you didn't create the causes for it. So I am a condition for the interaction with the other.
ogni azione che noi andiamo a compiere
Every action that we make on a more superficial level is a condition for the immediate interaction, and at the same time it creates an inertia. And if we try to observe, for example, today we live the results of experiences we lived many years ago. Maybe when we were young or adolescent, maybe something happened, some thoughts were there, some actions were there, and still now these condition us as if there were an inertia of this action that still today conditions what we live, where the experience of the present moment is a reflex of what we experienced and lived in the past that is manifesting through the conditions of the present. Using an analogy that is not completely correct, just in part, is when we talk about traumas, for example, traumas created in the past, then there is the present condition that triggers that word that someone said is not the cause of that panic attack, for instance. It's a condition that activates something that I'm bringing with me from the past. This is just one example. This to understand a bit how it works, the logic that each action is a condition for what is happening in the present moment is a condition for me, but also a condition for those who interact with me. And at the same time, I create a new inertia. This inertia has two manifestations. From one side, it's the side of the conditionings. So the more I get angry, the more I will get angry because I get used to this anger, and or for example, if I lie, I will keep lying, etc., etc. And then there is a part that is more energetical, that is called the force of the action or the energy of the action. The terminology used is karmic force, but karma means action, so I'm making an action and an inertia is created there that stays with me until I create a situation, a condition that this inertia manifests in the present moment as an inner experience. It's similar to what we said earlier, both good and bad. So I'm living some experiences, it stays there, let's say, hidden. Then in the present moment, maybe there's something that has nothing to do with what I lived in the past, but it awakens this, and then it manifests as a new sensation in the present, through which we act again, creating other conditionings and creating new karmic forces. And this brings us to a very simple concept. If I want to live a certain kind of experience, I need to create the causes that are coherent. If I want to avoid some experiences, I need to avoid the causes of those experiences. All the actions that their result, once matured in our continuum, are matured in a healthy state, are called punya, so virtuous actions, sonam, so-called merits. So what are these merits? They are all the karmic forces, the positive karmic forces accumulated. So I make an action, and the action in itself is concluded. But there is something there, a force there, like a seed that is planted in my mental continuum. And when this force enters into contact with some conditions, then this manifests, and I experience this result in my sensations. Those that manifest as pleasant sensations are the result of a positive karmic force. Those that manifest as negative or unpleasant sensation are the result of negative karmic forces. So what we do in the present moment are causes for the future and conditions that make past causes mature. In the path, in our spiritual path, one of the ways in which, one of the summaries that we can do is that in this path is not enough to understand and study. We need to do the two accumulations. We need to do these two accumulation, tsogni, that are accumulating positive karmic forces, so accumulating merits, and accumulating wisdom. These are the two wings that allows us to get out of suffering. Because if I don't have enough positive karmic force to sustain a healthy state that lasts in time. It doesn't matter how much I want to meditate or I create positive thoughts or whatever, because they come up and then they go away. And then we lose them because there is not a basis for them to be sustained. And this basis that can sustain this inner state of well-being, it's called positive karmic force. In Sanskrit, it's punya. In Tibetan, sonam. In Italian, we don't have it, and we call it positive karmic force. In some texts, they are translated sometimes as merits, but I don't really like it very much because it seems like something that someone else has to give to us. Someone else attributes to us. It's not this. So I create an action, I make an action, and I create a kind of interdependence. So if I want to get a lot of apples, I need to plant a lot of seeds of the apple tree. If I want to get some pepper, I need to plant pepper. If I don't want pepper, I have to try not to plant those seeds. Also, because if I have a terrain and I plant a lot of seeds of something sweet, and in between there I plant some pepper, the pepper that will grow from there, will it become sweet? No. And similarly, I can make many virtuous actions and have a lot of positive karmic force. This doesn't mean that the negative karmic force transforms into positive. And there's the fundamental concept, one thing is one thing and another thing is another thing. So we need to take from both aspects. And in our path, one of the fundamental points is that if we don't do an important part of accumulating more and more this positive karmic force, what will happen is that our spiritual path may stay just at a conceptual level. And it's difficult to transform this in experience. It's difficult then to generate an inner state that is healthy, balanced, peaceful, that can sustain itself. Also, the inner state of happiness and joy, etc., it's something that needs a lot of positive karmic force in order to sustain itself. This is why in the path there is this part that is usually very much mentioned of the two accumulations. And we arrived at the part of the practice in self-healing where we did yesterday the seed syllables, and today we did the visualization with a bit more details in the practice. And in many moments of the practice, in many sadhanas, there is a moment where it says, rays of light emanates that make the two functions, the two scopes, objectives. And this refers to the accumulation of the merits, accumulating the positive karmic force. One of the modalities that are more powerful in order to do this is the act of offering, generosity. When Buddha described the qualities that we need to perfect in our path, the first one, on the basis of love, but the first one is after love, because love is the basis, but the first is generosity. So generosity is the first of the paramitas, of the 6 perfections, because generosity, that is the act of giving, of offering with love, is first of all the easiest to practice, but principally is the one that creates a lot of positive karmic force that then becomes a solid basis upon which we can sustain the practice of morality, patience, enthusiastic force, concentration, and then wisdom. This is why we give a lot of emphasis in the beginning of the path, but also after, in the practice of generosity, of offering. The act of offering begins with the mind. Then it materializes in, but we start from the mind. It materializes in smiling in many ways, but it starts from the mind. It's the pleasure of offering. And what we repeat many times is that in the moment of the seed syllable, for example, we see that the rays of light emanates from the seed syllables, and their function is to offer. But we make this distinction when we offer to a spiritually evolved being, it's called an offer. When we give to someone that is spiritually less evolved than us or as us, is called an act of generosity. So these two actions are manifestation of the same thing, is the act of offering, of giving. So imagine we give to all enlightened beings as offerings and they reach this state of bliss. So our objective is to offer to them, and then the rays of light come back, and it's like they're bringing back this positive karmic force generated with that action. Then these lights emanates again, and they go to all beings, and when they emanate, they do the 4 acts of generosity that are at the same moment a way of simulating how a Buddha helps all beings. Because the objective of an enlightened being is to sustain and help beings to get out of their suffering. And this happens through 4 types of actions. The first is to help materially. So a being that has a lot of hunger, first of all, needs to eat. So first we help materially. So we imagine that these rays of light transform in the object of that the sentient beings need most. Then we have the offer of love, an emotional help. So bringing love, affection to those who feel lonely, that have an emotional need. So the second is an emotional help that is called generosity of giving love. Then we have protection. So these rays of light transform in objects and contexts that help each being to get out of a situation where they feel under menace. Because when someone feels and has this sensation of feeling under menace, the priority is to get out of it. There's no space for nothing else. And then the rays of light to those who have materially, who have emotional balance, that don't have this fear of menace, then means they're open for the Dharma. And this is also a reflection for ourselves. I mean, to practice well Dharma, ideally, we should have minimum that we need materially, because already this creates some space, to have an emotional state that is at least minimum balance and not being stressed. Because when we don't have material needs that are covered, when emotionally we are unstable, it becomes very difficult. When we are stressed, we don't have the space, the calm, the deepness of receiving really the teachings and putting them into practice. So once we visualize the emanations of light going to all the beings, because to the Buddhas it's easier because they don't need anything, but we still offer. But when it goes to the beings, it's a bit more complicated. We need to first help them materially, then it transforms in an emotional help, giving love, then we help them, giving them protection so that they don't feel under stress and under menace, whether it is an external or internal menace, and then it transforms into the Dharma. So these rays of light transform into the teachings, and slowly, slowly every beings reach this state of love towards themselves, towards others, with a correct view of reality, are able to overcome their mental defilements until they reach an effective state of peace, and then the ray of lights come back. And these rays of light, when they are emanated, when they go to the enlightened beings and all the beings and they come back, this is exactly the practice of generosity at a mental level, because physically we are here. we're sitting down, but as an imagination, we are practicing generosity in our mind, so we are offering. And the act of offering is the most powerful act to accumulate positive karmic force, one of the most powerful actions to accumulate this. So the seed syllable represents our potential, our 5 aggregates of the basis, and also the 5 wisdom of the basis. But not right now, we won't enter into this, maybe later. And what it happens is when the rays of light emanates and come back, the force that is generated is the basis and creates the causes so that that potential can manifest, can evolve. So these rays emanates, do their function, they come back, and when they come back, once they're back, it's like this seed when you give water to the seed, because the seed is like, it needs to bloom. So at that point, this seed syllable transforms into a symbol, and this symbol represents something that is evolving, developing, but has not yet come to its final form. But we can still figure out what it's about to become. It's like it's like the bud. We can distinguish one bud from the other and see which plant it will become. So this shows us, first of all, the most subtle to gross transformation, level transformation. Then that the transformation of our qualities is gradual. It's not something that comes from one moment to the other and requires the accumulation of positive karmic force. And the accumulation of wisdom is the gradual process of reflecting, meditating, familiarizing with the correct view of reality, with interdependence, with emptiness of intrinsic existence, and one accumulates wisdom slowly. And this becomes gradually a deeper experience until it becomes spontaneous. So in the accumulation of merits, there is also the part of generating love, practicing morality, patience. There are different aspects that are about accumulating these merits or positive karmic forces. And these are the 2 aspects we need to accumulate. So merits, positive karmic force, and wisdom. So during the practice, the accumulation of wisdom is present in the state in which usually we go and see this process of emptiness of intrinsic existence that should be kind of constant through our whole practice. Also, our left arm in this mudra is about remembering, about wisdom. So we have the symbols, and at the secret chakra we have a double vajra, green, that is marked by the Hri. It means that this double vajra is of light and is vibrating with the sound of Hri. And this same light, this is the same light of the seed syllable that transformed, but has the same energy. At the navel, the tram transformed into a yellow.
Trasformata in un vajra blu segnato dalla Hum.
Jewel. At the heart, it transformed into a vajra, signed and marked by the Hum. At the throat, we have a lotus flower, red, with the syllable A, marked with the A. And at the crown, we have the wheel of Dharma, marked by the Om. And these represents the 5 Dhyani Buddhas that are a personification of the 5 aggregates and other qualities developed at their maximum potential. And here we could enter a bit more into details of the symbology of each and every one of them. For example, the double vajra. If we take in this small sadhana, we have the images, the drawings. Page 9. I remember when we did this, we I remember we put the lotus flower like laying down so that it is easier to visualize, but that, of course, the dimension of these images are not correct in relation to the various channels, but at least it's easier to see. So anyways, the double Vajra represents stability. In this case, it represents opposition to fear, because fear is very much connected to doubt and uncertainty. So this is the opposite of this. And the jewel is something that represents the increasing, the prosperity and abundance connected to Ratnasambhava. The Dorje represents non-duality, so mind at a pure state. The lotus flower represents satisfaction. And the wheel of Dharma represents the teachings of the Buddha in general, not on a theoretical point of view, but their essence, so the union that there is between morality, concentration, and wisdom. The nucleus of the wheel of Dharma is wisdom, and these are the symbols of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas family. And if we go to Nepal, we would see many stupas that in the 4 directions we have and at the center we have these same symbols. So recognizing the symbol, we can also recognize the direction. For example, here in the temple, the door is at the south, so yellow, Ratnasambhava, is south. Amitabha red is west. Amoghasiddhi green is north. And here white and blue can be interchanged, but is east, white Vairochana, or east, blue, Akshobhya, and then the center is either, depending on the emphasis that we give to the system, can change color. For example, it can be either blue or white. Here, Lama Ganchen Rinpoche wanted to integrate 3 different systems altogether. If we observe, the principal system, the bigger, looking upwards, at the east we have the white, and at the center we have the blue. You can see that this square and at the center is blue. So this is the system, for example, of the Yamantaka practice or Guya Samaja. But if we look at the second mandala that is more in the inner part, at the east we have the blue, not white, with the Borobudur mandala. And we have Sarvabhi Vairochana. There are other mandalas where at the center there is a white Vairochana, not Akshobhya. And then if we go even more to the inner part, at the east it's black, south is red, west is yellow, and north is white. This is Kala Chakra system. That is another system. Then everything brings to the same place, but through different systems. So the way in which Lama Ganchen Rinpoche wanted to put here this ocean of mandalas, there are 3 different systems put together. So we have at the east white, Vairochana, then we have Akshobhya, so the center changes, and then the system of Kala Chakra, as we said. In general, majority of tantras are very similar, except from Kala Chakra. Kala Chakra is a different reality in itself, so it's very different and very complicated. This is why that in big monasteries like in Ganden Monastery or Tashilumpo Monastery, it's right because it's a different system by itself. There is a department where the monks enter there. They spend their whole life studying Kala Chakra. It's not just something that they do. No, their life is completely dedicated to studying the system of Kala Chakra. Then there is another department where they do Yamantaka, Guya Samaja. Then there is another where they do Heruka. There are different departments in order to deepen the understanding of each system. Then there is another department just of philosophy where they study this. And Kalachakra has a separate department because it's a very complex system, because there is an external Kalachakra regarding astrology and the environment. Then we have the inner Kalachakra that is about medicine, understanding the body, etc. And then there is the alternative Kalachakra, which is about the mind, psychology, and the delicate parts of the practice. And it's very, very complex. But anyways, Lama Ganche here wanted to represent everything. Going back to the symbols, the interesting thing is that in all these systems, even if they are very different on many sides, they all are based on the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Kalachakra are based on 5 Dhyani Buddha. In Kalachakra they have different colors, but they're always the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. In all the tantras that exist, we have Tantra of Veruca, Tantra of Guhya Samaja, Tantra of Yamantaka, Hevajra. Any one of them are based on the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. This is why when we understand the self-healing practice and we comprehend better the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, which are the characteristic connected to it and all of this, then if we want to deepen any other system that are, even if they are very complex, like Guhya Samaja or Heruka Chakra Sambhara or Yamantaka or Kalachakra, then there is a solid basis in order to understand them. I remember one time a group of friends of the Sangha, they were practicing self-healing for a long time, and they went to receive a Kalachakra initiation. And during this initiation, they said, we understood something because we knew self-healing, because he was talking about the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and this and that, and the majority of the people that were there were not understanding anything. And Lama Ganchen had this very peculiar characteristic that he made us do things that it seemed maybe for us that we were playing like kids, like playing like this, very, very easy, very simple. But actually he was explaining the most difficult things. And at a certain point, when we see in another context, we are like, how much we know. So when we understand the symbols, when we understand the seed syllables and the symbols, it has a very deep meaning, because in the end, all the systems that we have in the Vajrayana system are in order to transform the being, and the being, the self, is made of body, speech, mind, that manifest like the 5 aggregates, the bases. Here there's a point that I did not explain in these days, because we talked about body and mind, but not about speech. But it's quite simple. Gross body goes together with the gross word, and word is not necessarily just the sound, but it's what we emanate in order to communicate with the others. So at a gross level, what can we emanate in order to communicate? Sound. Sound is still vibration. Vibration is a form of energy. So the gross word is what we say, but also what we write. Let's make a correct use of our speech. Keeping our mouth shut and writing bad things, that's still speech, it's still words. The subtle words is what we emanate at a energetical level, so the vibration that the subtle body emanates. So we have a subtle body composed by channels, winds, and drops, and this vibration that it emanates our subtle body, it's called the subtle speech. And it's something that is not so far away. I think usually we are able to feel the subtle speech. We are able to perceive based on where we are, with who we are. There are moments where it's quite evident what you can feel, what is emanated by a person, by a place, etc. And then there is the very subtle word or speech that is called the brightness of the very subtle wind. So lightness, brightness means emanation. So the energy that is emanated from the very subtle body, that is a form of prana, of energy that is vibrating, and what is emanated is called the very subtle word or speech. So body, speech, and mind are always together. Either if we want it or not, we interact with the world and with others, and this interaction also comes with the speech. So this is the speech. Where there is the body, there is mind. Where there is body and mind, there is also speech. At the same time, so the head represents the body, the throat, the speech, and the body, and the heart, chakra of the heart, the mind. So body, speech, and mind. Someone may say, why is the mind not at the head? Actually, no, because the conceptual part that is more connected to the rational part, etc., etc., it's a very small part of the mind, of our conscious. And if we ask to ourselves, where is the mind in our body? In all of the body. Our mind is inseparable from the body. Our mind is in all our organs, also in the heart, in the brain, in every part of our body. Primarily, the point that we attribute to the mind is the heart, that it's described where we have our indestructible drop, our very subtle mind. It's at the heart. And our emotional part, let's say, it's much more important. It's a much more important aspect of our mind rather than our rationality and logic. But anyways, we have body, speech, and mind. Body at the heart, at the head, speech at the throat, and mind at the heart. So we are composed by body, speech, and mind, and our being, ourself, is based, our identity is based on what it's called the 5 aggregates. And it's for this reason that all tantras start from the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, because all the tantras have the function of transforming our identity and our being. This is why it's based on our basis, on what we are. We have 5 aggregates. This is why we start from there. So our 5 aggregates, from our 5 aggregates, we emanate rays of light, we reabsorb them through the positive karmic force, we accumulate, and the wisdom we accumulate, they transform into the symbols. So our qualities are developing.
No. O meglio, il prodotto del cervello, i pensieri.
The thoughts,
fanno parte del corpo.
It's not if they're part or no of the body. The point is that body and mind are inseparable, so the thoughts are part of the mind, of the principal part of our mind is in the heart, not in the head. And the part that is about all the parts that create our identity are much more connected to our mind rather than our brain. But this doesn't mean that what is important to remember is that where there is the body, there's the mind. Where there is the mind, there's the body. And when there is body and mind, there is the speech. So they are inseparable, one from the other. And the mistake we do sometimes is to have this dual vision. So I have one thing and another thing, and then they interact. But actually, they are mutually dependent. If we have one, there is also the other, and vice versa. And someone may say, but what happens when someone dies? Body and mind, very subtle body and mind, are those that continue, also the speech. So in the practice, the seed syllables transform into the symbols. When we do this, in the first part of the practice is where we do the mudra of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, and the mudras are also there to help us to connect with the whole meaning of it. So we work inside of our central channel primarily, and we go up and down. So we have Om Hum Tram Hri, and then from up to down, then we go from downwards to upwards. So from Hri, the double Vajra, and we do the mudra of no more fear. The interesting thing is that the gestures, the mudras, have in themselves a way of communicating that is non-verbal. And it tells a lot. For example, let's try. Think of not wanting to share, not wanting to give. Are you able to do this right now? And while we have this thought, let's do this mudra of Ratnasambhava. It's almost like the hand wants to come back, because when we do this mudra, naturally what we are saying is giving, offering, sharing. So the gestures, the mudras, are there in order to help us to connect with the meaning of all the Dhyani Buddhas and the qualities that we're trying to develop. And of course, the more these symbols are nurtured and filled with meaning, the more, while we are seeing them, it's easier to connect, and the practice becomes richer. So in order to do this very well, through time, we always need to deepen the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, what they are, what are their characteristics, etc. So, secret chakra, mudra of no more fear, Amoghasiddhi. Eliminating fear is one of the first of the main characteristics. Then we have navel chakra, mudra of supreme generosity. Then chakra of the heart, we have inner stability mudra. And the earth represents the thing that is most stable. So, Amitabha, mudra of meditative concentration, and Verochana, Ramaganchen called it OK mudra. That is called the mudra of turning the wheel of Dharma, or the mudra of wisdom. So, turning the wheel of Dharma is this mudra or this other mudra. That actually represents the turning this wheel. And what is this turning? Is the knowledge, the experience of the Dharma within each and every one of us, and that it transmits. So this is the passage of receiving and transmitting, that then it reincorporates and transmits again. So this is what it's called, the turning the wheel of Dharma. There are 2 wheels of Dharma to turn, one of the knowledge and one of the experience. And while I'm giving you these explanations as I received from my masters and they received from theirs, this is the transferring or turning the wheel of knowledge. But while I'm sharing with you this Dharma that comes together with my experience, and you put it into practice and you transform your being, developing yourself related to the Dharma, at this point also the wheel of Dharma of experience or of realizations is turning. The wheel of Dharma of realizations comes in the moment where we talk about the importance of practicing patience. When those who receive this actually put it into practice and develops it, at this point is where the wheel of Dharma of realization turned. So for this reason, in order for Buddha's teachings to be alive in a determined context, it's not enough to transmit the knowledge. Both the wheel of dharmas need to be present. So the way to ensure that the Buddha's teachings stay alive is by putting them into practice and transmitting the knowledge. So for this reason, in order for the teachings to stay alive, is not based only on the teachers and those who teach it, but it's very important also for those who put it into practice in order to keep it alive. So this is the mudra of turning the wheel of Dharma, ovvero Chana. So at this moment, we have a rising of the symbols. And from the symbols, the same thing happens. Ray of lights emanate in the various directions, doing the two actions in order to accumulate positive karmic force. So ray of lights emanate, go to the Buddhas, do offering, goes to all the beings and bringing a state of peace. So we practice generosity at a mental level, mental state. Then the rays of light come back, reabsorb into the symbols, and through this force, they manifest at this point in the form of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. And the 5 Dhyani Buddhas represent our own qualities connected to each of the Dhyani Buddhas developed at their maximum potential, and also our 5 aggregates in a pure state. So the body in a pure state, the discernment, the conscious, sensations, and compositional factors. When we finish this part, when we end this part, and we do the same mudras, and we visualize inside of the central channel that they arise, all the 5 Dhyani Buddhas at our 5 chakras. In this moment, we go to the conclusion of the generation stage. If you remember, we said that the generation stage is composed by 5 steps. Emptiness, lotus, and in the lotus the seed syllable into the symbol, and the symbol into the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, representing interdependence that is the basis that allows for the transformation to happen. The lotus flower is the positive conditions. The seed syllable is our own essence that through the 2 accumulations transform into the symbol until developing at their maximum potential, so being the Dhyani Buddhas. So our part completely transformed. From the basis, we have seed syllable is the basis, the syllable is the path, and the Buddha is the result.
In questo momento della pratica,
in this moment of the practice, going back to the analogy of the mandala, it's when we finished building our mandala. So we built the walls, we invited all we had to invite, we put everyone sitting in. So we built this mandala. And when we finish building the mandala, in a state of realization, is where we will actually use it. Before this, I just wanted to briefly add that there is a part of the practice that can be done, that is not put explicitly here, and Lama Rinpoche didn't put a lot of emphasis to this part, but it is possible to do it. That is the part of accumulating and reciting the mantras of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. So what we can do at this point is we have the 5 Dhyani Buddhas visualized at our 5 chakras, and we do the recitation of their mantra. Because when we do the mantra after, it's with another context and another function that we will explain tomorrow. What we do at this point is we visualize at the head Vairochana, throat Amitabha, heart Akshobhya, navel Ratnasambhava, secret chakra Amoghasiddhi. In the heart of every one of them, we have a lotus flower with a moon and solar cushion upon which we have the seed syllable. So at the heart of Vairochana, we have a lotus flower with 8 petals, and at the center we have the Om, and around the Om we have the mantra Om A Vairochana Hum. At the throat, at the heart of Buddha Amitabha, we have the lotus flower of 8 petals, and at the center we have the syllable A, and the mantra turning around. At the heart, we have Akshobhya Buddha with the lotus flower at the heart. At the center, we have the Hum with the mantra Oma Akshobhya Hum turning around. It's like every syllable of the mantra is like a point of light that is vibrating with that sound that is turning in clockwise. At the heart of Buddha Ratna Sambhava, the same thing with the tram, with the mantra Oma Ratna Sambhava Hum. And at the secret chakra, Buddha Moghasiddhi, at the heart, the lotus flower with the syllable Hri, with the mantra Oma Amoghasiddhi Hum. One by one we visualize, we imagine, and then we do the accumulation of the mantra. And so we do. And while we are reciting the mantra, we visualize that from the heart of Buddha Vairochana, for example, at the head, at the crown, there are many emanations and rays of light going out from Buddha Vairochana, and Buddha Vairochana is inside of the central channel. And we have 2 different visualizations. I will explain the most complex one. So inside the central channel, rays of light go inside the central channel. They get out from the right channel and go towards all the beings while exhaling. And here, the emanations of Buddha Vairochana, because we are simulating the state of a Buddha, they do all the 4 forms of generosity. So they manifest as what all beings need, particularly to those beings that are more turmoiled by ignorance, while the rays of light reach the beings and follow the beings until they reach the same state of Buddha Vairochana, and they recite with us the mantra, and then the rays of light and emanations come back and enter in the left nostril, in left channel. They reabsorbed until getting back to the central channel and going back to the heart of Buddha Vairochana at her crown. So this, we can do it with the recitation of the mantra out loud, or reciting it mentally using the breathing to help with this process of emanation and absorption. So when we exhale, we emanate. When we inhale, we absorb. And when we keep the breath, it absorbs at the heart of Vairochana. And then we exhale, we emanate, we keep, and the air and the lights absorbs to the beings. Then we inhale, absorb back, and we keep the air absorbed at the heart of Vairochana. So, of course, to do this, we need to create a familiarity with the mantra that needs to be a lot. For example, 10,000 times. Usually it's 100,000 times. Because when the mantra becomes natural and automatic, at that point, I am able to breathe while reciting mentally. Otherwise, it's very complicated. But anyways, the essence is I do the mantra, I emanate, help the beings come back, absorb to the heart of Vairochana. Buddha Amitabha, same thing. Om Amitabha Hum, I emanate, help the beings come back and absorb. In the most simple way, without the channels, we can simply emanate directly from the chakra, getting to the beings, and then absorbing back to the chakra. This is the most simple way to do it. The one that is more complex is the one that we explained, that the emanations go inside the central channel, go out from the right one. The beings reach a state of peace. They recite the mantras with us. We take back all the rays of light. They come back to our left nostril and absorb into the heart of Vairochana. And there is this continuous flow. But this is a very evolved way of doing it. So these are different ways that we can do this. But when we do the accumulation of mantra, we do this process. And when we do this visualization, that is the same for all of the 5 chakras, we are unconsciously, let's say, training into what it's called the 4 incommensurable. Because the rays of light and the emanations that goes to the being go towards who? Those that are kind to us, or towards everybody. Let's hope towards everybody. So in the moment that I emanate rays of light to everybody at the same way, I am familiarizing myself with equanimity. When rays of light helps the beings to overcome their suffering and eliminating their suffering, I am familiarizing with compassion. After eliminating compassion, the beings are brought to a state of peace. At that point, I'm familiarizing with love. And while the rays of light come back and the beings recite together with us the mantras, we familiarize with the joy of rejoicing for them. And when we see at page 23, it's the 7 limitless meditations that are the 4 uncommensurable and the 3 special aspirations for the times we find ourselves in. So are the 4 qualities that we have a lot of emphasis are put in our path on this. So equanimity, compassion, joy, and love. And while we're doing this visualization, we are familiarizing with this without thinking, now I'm meditating on equanimity. No, I'm giving these rays of light and emanations to all the beings, so I am already developing this. I want their happiness. I'm giving this love to them. I don't want them to suffer, so they reach actually this level of happiness. And when the ray of light comes back to us, we are happy and we rejoice for the happiness of all the beings. So if you also during a retreat of self-healing, or when you practice, the meditation you can do is doing 100 times, 1,000 times each and every one of the mantras, visualizing this that we just explained. Okay? When we arrive at this point is where, after this, there is the conclusion of what it's called the generation stage. We did the self-generation as Vajrasattva, we did the generation of the mandala of the body, and then the recitation of the mantra is, after generating the mantras, we simulate the action, the sacred action of a Buddha. So this is the part of the recitation of the mantra. In many sadhanas, actually it is said, meditate in the mandala, and when you're tired, in order to relax, you do the recitation of the mantra. So the principal part of the practice is not the accumulation of the mantras, even if it's wonderful. So with this, we conclude the part of the generation stage. Tomorrow, we will do the completion stage. And here I want to give more emphasis into explaining the 5 wisdoms that we did not explain until now, to understand a bit better, and slowly nurturing and giving more meaning all of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and symbols. This afternoon, we will do the self-healing practice, and after, there will be something peculiar that was requested to me many times, and in the end, in the very complex agenda that I have, I was able to put it in. That is this moment of blessings and commitment of the couples. and sometimes there is someone telling, Lama, please, can you give me the blessing of the weddings? But it's not possible for me to do it so often. So what Lama Ganche Rinpoche used to do is doing a collective moment that in reality is not only a part of giving the commitment to the couple, but is also renewing this commitment to who already took it. So we will do this moment this afternoon after the practice. Okay? This is all. Let's do our dedications now.
Lame kutse rapten chi nam karatin le chokchur gepadang losan tempe drenme sasum ki drove munsela takto ne gyur chi kewa kuntu yanda lamadang dralme cheki pela longche ching sada lamge yenten rabzo ne dorje changi kopanyur tobo sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shing ninsen takto delek pe koncho sumki chingi lob koncho sumki ngodrubo tsol koncho sumki trashisho. All'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and spring all the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Oma huntemba lame sangye rinpoche, kyoba lame tamcho rinpoche, dremba lame gendo rinpoche, kyamne kuncho sumla chopa. Buon appetito. Ci vediamo alle 4.